Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. In a world filled with endless opportunities, why would two men who have built 13 multi-million-dollar businesses altruistically invest 5 hours per day to teach you the best practice business systems and moves that you can use? Because they believe in you, and they have a lot of time on their hands. They started from the bottom, now they're here. It's the Thrive Time Show starring the former U.S. Small Business Administration's Entrepreneur of the Year, Clay Clark, and the entrepreneur trapped inside an optometrist's body, Dr. Robert Zillner. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here.
Mr. Clyde started from the bottom, and now we're at the top, teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of 5, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the CNC up on your radio, and now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, now we're here. We started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to.
Ladies and gentlemen, on today's show, we are joined by a guru, somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to a subject that no one seems to know what they're talking about. See, everybody, we're all concerned about AI. Are we all going to die? Is it going to kill us? Is it going to take our jobs? Is it going to, what's going to happen? Are we going to get locked out of our money? Are our jobs going to be replaced by humanoid robots? Are we all going to find ourselves living in a van down by the river? Will it drive innovation? Will it improve our lives? Will it make our lives worse? We don't know, so we wanted to bring an expert onto today's show. Sarah Williamson, welcome onto the Thrive Time Show. How are you?
I am well. Thank you very much for having me, Clay.
Well, I'm excited to have you, and I'm going to put your very in-depth bio in our show description so our listeners can read it and check it out. But if you were to describe for our listeners your background previous to lowering your standards and agreeing to be on my podcast, what have you been doing with your career? Kind of walk us through your background.
So the simple story is I grew up in Kentucky. I didn't know much about finance. I went to college. I didn't have much money. I figured I might as well go to Wall Street because they had money there, and managed to get a job at an investment bank, Goldman Sachs. Stayed there for a couple of years, went to Harvard Business School, went back to consulting, then worked as an investor for over 20 years at a firm called Wellington Management, which you may know that it manages funds for Vanguard and lots of other people. And now for the last 10 years have been working on how to make capital markets do what they're really supposed to do, which is to help businesses grow and increase pensions and other savings for people who have real long-term goals like retiring or sending their kids to college or buying a house or any of those things that we'd like to do.
Now, there's so many follow-up questions I have here, but I want to get into this Goldman Sachs thing for a second. So many people that hear the name Goldman Sachs and they go, yeah, I gotta know what that is. I kind of know what that is. But if you say, well, what does it do? What do they do? A lot of people say, well, they're in the finance, but I don't think a lot of people know behind the wall what's really going on at Goldman Sachs or what that is. Could you tell us a little bit about your time at Goldman Sachs and maybe what Goldman Sachs is all about?
Yeah, so I was there a long time ago, but the idea of any investment bank, Goldman Sachs or any others, usually is it has 2 parts to it. And we talk about this in this book. One side is called investment advisory or investment banking. And those people work for the company. So they work for a company that wants to buy another company, or a company that wants to go public, or a company that wants to sell off a division, something like that. So those would be the investment bankers, as they're usually known. The other side of the house is usually called sales and trading or something along those lines. And those are the people that you see on CNBC at the end of the day, on the floor of the stock exchange, actually trading stocks and trading bonds and interacting really with the markets. And so what an investment bank traditionally has done is they're the interface between a company that wants to get something done, like buy somebody else or sell stock or whatever, and people, real people who want to invest their money by buying a stock. And so that's their job, is to be the middleman and to be the intermediary between people who have capital and people who need capital.
So shifting gears for a little bit, I mean, you mentioned Harvard, and you're not dwelling on it, but I'm going to dwell on it. Harvard's a prestigious school to get into. It's difficult to get into. A lot of people want to go to Harvard. A lot of people say, Harvard, that's incredible. What is Harvard? Can you tell us about your Harvard experience? What were you studying at Harvard, and how did you gravitate to Harvard?
So I didn't go to Harvard for college. I went to Williams College, which is in Western Massachusetts, but I went to Harvard for business school. So the reason I went there was I didn't have a background in business. I spent a couple of years on Wall Street. I spent a year working for the U.S. State Department, and then I went to business school. And I think what I learned about business at business school was all of the different parts of it. So operations and marketing and management of people and negotiation and all of those sorts of things. So I think what a good business school teaches you is how to put the pieces together that you need to run a business. Because anyone who runs a business, whether it's big or small, knows that it's not usually one technical skill they need. Maybe there's somebody that they do need that's got a really technical skill. But usually if you're running a business, you're problem solving, you're dealing with whatever comes up, you're dealing with what your competitors doing, what the market's giving you. And so I think what Harvard does and what many schools do that do this well is they teach you with cases. Here's what happened in this business. How did the leadership handle it? And how would you have handled it differently? And so you try to learn. You try to learn from others' mistakes or others' successes, and without having to make them all yourself.
Now, because you decided to not take over another planet or take over the world, you decided to aim for something a little more reasonable for people like myself. You decided to start your own company, and you're the CEO and you're the founder of this company called Focusing Capital on the Long Term. Why did you decide to do this as opposed to pursuing something else? I mean, why did you decide to pursue this fork in the road?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So first of all, we're a nonprofit company. So let's start with that. So why would somebody who has spent their entire career doing business, going to business school, investing, decide to lead a nonprofit? It was some of my friends and former colleagues thought that I was crazy. Some thought it was a great idea, but it was a huge pivot, to your point. And the real reason that I decided to do this is, having spent my whole career on Wall Street or in an investment business, what I have seen is that most investing is really not focused on the long-term goal. The long-term goal is, how does the owner of those assets, the person who wants to retire, whatever it might be, reach their goal? And how does the company get the capital that they need to thrive, to create a new product or come up with a new innovation that really is something their customers need or want to have? And so that's what capital markets are supposed to do. That's what Wall Street is supposed to do, is to do both of those things. But unfortunately, what happens a lot of times is that the people in the middle are focused on each other, not sort of on the ends of the spectrum, if you will. And so there's a lot of trading back and forth and a lot of short-termism, and the market went up this much today and down this much tomorrow. And that is really a waste of time and resources and energy when you think about the great things that so many entrepreneurs are trying to build as real businesses. So I think there's an imbalance sometimes between the real economy, the people who actually produce goods and services that we use every day, and the financial economy. And so the reason for focusing capital on the long term is to try to rebalance that, to have the long-term value creation be the goal, not short-term trading.
Why did you decide to take this vast experience and then put it into a new book? Because, writing a book is a general rule for anybody out there who doesn't know. Writing a book, you don't typically make a lot of profit when you write a book. I mean, you a lot of times, you're lucky if you get a couple dollars per book. But most people that I know that write a book, it's like they have this passion for this subject or this idea and they want to get it out to the world. What inspired you to write your new book here, The CEO's Guide to the Investment Galaxy?
So I think what inspired me was conversations that I had with people who are running companies, running businesses. And having grown up in the investment world is very natural to me. I understand the jargon. I understand who's who. I understand what roles people have, but it's quite opaque. And so for most people who are actually trying to produce a product or a service, they look at the investment world and they think it's all one thing. There's a common phrase about the investment community, and the investment community wants this, or the investment community does that. And then they react. They behave in a way that they think they should because the investment community wants them to. But what they don't understand is that the investment community is full of very different creatures, as we call them. So you may recall the book, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And in that book and comic strips, there are a couple of people who take off from Earth and they go land on all these planets. And they meet these various creatures on these different planets, and some are really friendly and some are not very friendly at all. And The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was meant to help them figure out before they landed on this fictional planet whether they were friend or foe, whether they would be welcomed there or not, what they really were after. And so that is the inspiration for this book, which is if you're running a business, you're running a company, and you're venturing into the investment community or the investment galaxy, who are all these people and what are their motivations and what kind of creatures are we talking about, to try to unmask that, which is, again, not easy. It's opaque. It's a bit inside baseball, and it's not often shared with the business community.
What does your book have to say about this new navigating this new world of AI-driven disruption? I see people all the time. Let me give you an example. I interviewed a job candidate last week that's looking for a job working for one of my businesses, and their job simply no longer exists because artificial intelligence is automating that particular administrative position. And so what does your book say to our listeners who are trying to navigate this world of AI-driven disruption?
So I think we are in the very early stages of AI-driven disruption. And I think in the investment world, it's already having a huge impact. So just to give you an example, typically what happens every quarter is that you have sell-side analysts who are the people who write about companies. They work for the sell side of an investment bank typically. And they say, next quarter, we expect, this company to have earnings of $2 a share and their revenues to do this, that, and the other thing. Well, those are often now being written by AI, or the basics are being written by AI. So rather than a human going through the annual reports and talking to the management and so on, AI is taking all those public reports and turning that into a report. So the same thing is happening in the investment world as it is in lots of other jobs. And so my expectation is that over time, we will have more and more of the capital of the world being directed by AI in some way, shape, or form. Now, the challenge with AI, as I'm sure you know, is that it's built on data. So it's built on the past. And so the best investors, whether they're smart or lucky, the best investors are the ones that figure out what's going to happen next, what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen where we're going. And so I think, to me, the question is, will AI be able to figure out where we're going or just where we've been? Now, we all know you need to understand where we've been. And so it's unbelievably helpful. And I think it's an incredible tool that I use often. But I think we're just starting. And it's going to change the investment world along with most other jobs.
Okay, I want to read a quote to you from Elon Musk, and this is not meant to paint you into a corner, by the way. So if you don't like the question, feel free to hang up on me, and that'll be my indication you don't like the question.
Okay.
Elon Musk said during an interview on May 23rd of 2024, he said, perhaps there is still a role for humans, and that we may give AI meaning. He said this at the Viva Technology Conference, May 23rd, 2024. Elon Musk has sort of he warns people about Elon Musk, but yet develops AI. So he's developing AI, but he's warning us about AI. Sam Altman has said that AI perhaps will cause a great financial reset, but he's the one developing AI. So you're seeing people sort of warn about AI, but then also tell us it can be used for good. And I just want to get your thoughts on Elon Musk and people such as Elon Musk saying that, perhaps there's still a role for humans, and that's maybe to give AI meaning or some sort of changing where AI, well, it seems like a human authority is being shifted over to AI. I just want to get your reaction to that concept.
Well, I think there's no question that authority is being shifted to AI in terms of making decisions, helping people. There is a guy you may have heard of. His name is Kai-Fu Lee. He's an expert on AI. I am not. He's been an expert for a long time. But he said something years ago that 2 or 3 years ago, which seems forever in AI land, that has really stuck with me. And he said the roles of the future that AI will not be able to take over are ones that require empathy and touch. So if you think about, you have to touch something or someone, like a doctor or a nurse or a plumber or an electrician, something where there's touch and something where there's empathy. Now, I think we've learned that AI actually can be trained to be fairly empathetic, and there are people working on robotics, so maybe this goes too. But to me, I keep coming back to AI and touch are going to be the hardest things. Empathy and touch are going to be the hardest things for AI to take over. And I think if you think about, this may be more philosophical, but the whole caring economy, and the number of older people we have and so on, and the need to care for people who live long lives. Obviously, medicine is making people live a lot longer. The caring economy, what I hope, gets a lot more respect or benefit, because that's going to be a place that's going to be hard for AI to take out. I'm not going to have AI look after my mom.
Got it. Well, let me pull this up. I'm going to pull up your book so people can look at your book here. Again, we pull this up. This is the book cover here. It's the CEO's Guide to the Investment Galaxy, Navigating Markets to Build Great Companies. Again, folks, I'll put a link on the show notes, but there it is. That's the cover. We've pictured it. The CEO's Guide to the Investment Galaxy, Navigating Markets to Build Great Companies. If someone were to buy this book and they haven't, maybe been experienced to you and your background before, what are they going to get out of this book? Like if somebody buys your book and they say, I'm going to invest some money in reading this book, I'm going to invest the time and money to read it, what are they going to get out of this book? Why should everybody check out your new book?
So I had a very experienced CEO say to me a week or two ago, I read your book and I wish I'd had this 20 years ago. So what the idea of this book is to try to help people learn the lessons the easy way rather than the hard way. So for example, if you think about an experienced leader of a business who has gone through taking their business public or gone through a merger or had investors come into their business, and maybe that's gone well or maybe that's hasn't gone well, they've probably learned some lessons along the way. Who were these people? What are their incentives? Why aren't their incentives aligned with mine? Why don't they care about the same things I care about? What this book is meant to do is sort of open up that the cover on that, if you will, and say, well, what do people care about who are in this world? And therefore, do you want them on your journey with you as a business leader or not? And maybe you need them, but you want to know where people are coming from. And I think that the biggest problem that I see often is that business leaders assume that their investors, or who they think of as their investors, are on their team. They want them to win. And oftentimes that's just not the case. And so having that understanding, so going in eyes wide open, who are these people? What is this jargon about? We have a glossary in the back, which is part tongue in cheek, but is also quite serious about if somebody says something, what do they really mean by that? And so this is meant to be a way to anticipate some of the behaviors and incentives and words you may hear if you enter the world of Wall Street. So be ready. That's why you would buy this book.
Now, I'm going to pull up some information on the screen. And again, I know that my interview style is going to be odd in comparison to others. Most people are not producing their show live, but this is what I'm doing. I'm taking notes. We're interacting. Here we go. So as of today's recording, the price of gold just hit $3,500. Okay. The price of silver is, again, silver, folks, this is moving up right now, real time. We'll pull it up real quick here. So you got silver and gold. They're moving up right now, real time. The price per ounce is moving up. And at the same time, as this is happening, again, folks, the price of silver as of today's recording, it's going to go up and down. But as of today, you got $40.81 for silver. You switch over here to gold, you got $3,531 an ounce. Meanwhile, over here you have in China, you have some of the world's biggest, nations coming together. You have China, you have Russia, and they're talking about, Xi Jinping is talking about ushering in some kind of new world order or new financial order. And this isn't being reported by me. This is, Yahoo News is saying China unveils plan for the new world order. You're seeing more and more the Economic Times. We're talking about new world order, right? So it seems as though there's a shift in the price of commodities. Like this is happening. China, the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, that BRICS block of nations, they appear to be moving in a different direction. And there seems to be moving towards a new world. And it seems as though there's going to be an instability with commodity prices. And I just want to get your thoughts on that or your reaction to that. What are your thoughts on these volatile commodity prices of commodities going up and down on a daily basis? What are your thoughts on that?
So usually the price of gold is an indicator of confidence in the dollar, a reverse indicator. And so traditionally, the dollar is seen as the safest asset in the world. Whenever things go wrong, people want dollars, want US dollars. And if things are volatile, historically, that's been the safe haven, as it's called. Gold is the other safe haven. If things are volatile and you don't know what's going to happen, people tend to go to something that they can touch and feel and know is going to be there. And so something like gold or silver can be that safe haven. So traditionally and typically historically, when there's high volatility, you get high gold prices. Where there's high uncertainty, you get higher gold prices. Now, in terms of the New World Order, I don't know if we'll have a new world order, but one thing that I do talk about in this book that I think people will find very surprising is one of the groups we talk about are what we call the quiet giants, are the largest asset owners in the world. So the largest asset owners are either sovereign wealth funds, so funds that are backed by a government, or big pension plans, very large pension plans around the world that are obviously being saved to pay for a country's future retirees. And of those 10 largest asset owners in the world, only one of them is American. So they are Chinese, they are European, they are Canadian, they are many other countries, but only one is American. And that, I think, is part of what's happening, which is that the investment community, while most of the large tech companies are American, many of the large auto companies, many of the large all sorts of companies are American, most of the large asset owners in the world are not American. And I think that's an important part of this story.
You're blowing my mind. I'm taking copious notes. My head is going to explode. If you hear my head explode during today's show, folks, please feel free to pause, take notes, pray for me as my head sort of comes back together. This is a person who knows she's navigated the nonprofit space. She's navigated the Harvard Business School. She's worked at Goldman-Sachs. She's got this incredible book, The CEO's Guide to the Investment Galaxy, Navigating Markets to Build Great Companies. With the final 60 seconds we have here for you, oftentimes great people like you get on a podcast like mine and they say, he didn't even ask me that. He should have asked me that question. That's the question he should have asked. What is the question that I should be asking you on today's show that maybe I missed, or something that you really want to communicate to our listeners out there who are eagerly taking notes?
So I think the most important thing to remember, and the reason, again, to come back to this, is that capital should support people and business growth, not the other way around. So capital markets, Wall Street, whatever you want to call it, is here to build retirement savings, build education savings, build the ability for people to live better in the future, and to drive companies to be able to expand, innovate, do the R&D that we need, produce those products and services. And oftentimes the order of service goes the other way around, which is that companies feel like they're serving Wall Street. Wall Street should be serving companies and people.
Sarah, you are an incredible guest. I thank you so much for your time and your energy. And again, for anybody out there who's wanting to find this book, I'll pull it up on the screen one more time. I know we have some listeners who are listening while driving. They're pulling over in the shoulder right now. They're pulling over. Boop, 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 boop. They're getting into the shoulder. There it is, folks, on the screen. The CEO's Guide to the Investment Galaxy, Navigating Markets to Build Great Companies. Check it out. Sarah Williamson is the author. Thank you so much, ma'am, again, for joining us today. I really do appreciate you and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, Clay. It's been a pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Clay, my honor to be on your show. And thank you for all you do. I hear the ripple effects from you are good ripple effects. You know what I mean? People rave about what they learn from you. So congratulations.
Whoa,